1997, and you were telling me about coming to Demlin.
Yes, we finally came to Demlin. Like I said before, three uncles were still there. And one, as a matter of fact, was shot. But when my sisters got there, you know, my sister and my brother and my youngest sister, they left also Warsaw, and they went because they took away my sister and my mother. So they also decided, and they were liquidating the ghetto, so they decided to go. They were smugglers too. I mean, they were going in and out, and they went through Demlin. That's why we followed, because we didn't go back. I did not go back to home because there was no home anymore. So we went to Demlin. That's why, to meet them. So the three uncles were still there. A cousin of mine, he was at the same age at that time, at the same age as me, and we came there. First of all, I remembered once when my uncle, the uncle that was shot, he was sitting outside on the 4 steps of the house, of the apartment, of the house where he lived. And a German SS came by. He was sitting here eating some soup, you know, whatever, and they took out their gun and shot him while he was sitting on the steps eating. Anyway, it was my mother's brother. And so we came in. We didn't know where to go. We didn't know where to turn. So I remember where he used to live, my uncle. So I went over there, and I asked. So she told me the story or whatever, and I said, "Don't you know anybody?" We were talking Polish. We didn't talk Jewish. And she was afraid. That woman was afraid, because the Poles can make, you know, like they say, they started yelling rape, you know, like. So she was afraid to say anything. She was afraid to tell us anything. I said, "Why are you afraid? I am looking for my relatives. You are looking for our relatives. We are Jewish." So then I kept on asking her, "Do you remember this one and that one?" She said, "Yes." And I said, "Would you remember Peru?" She said, "Peru, yes." So I said, "Peru was my mother." Then she eased up a little bit. You know, she said, I looked like her. I mean, she saw some resemblance. And she wasn't sure whether it was, you know, so I said, "What, Peru?" So she sent us, and she told us where to go. And that's where we found my 2 sisters and my brother, and my uncle and my cousin. My uncle was the son of the uncle, the brother-in-law, not that. Because my 2 uncles didn't have this one, he was he was married in 1939 because my grandmother died, and as a matter of fact, his wife, the uncle that I have, his wife survived, and she lives in Canada. She comes here every year. But no matter what, she's still my aunt, you know. No matter whether he's dead or not, if he would have lived, she would have still been my aunt. And if she would have lived with him and died, that's still my aunt. So she comes here every year, and we get together. And so we were in the ghetto. We came, and it was still ghetto, but all the kids and the aunts and one uncle was also gone, and with the family. And we were happy, not happy, we were glad that they were still alive, and that we have 5 of us are still alive, and we got to be together. From now on, we said we're not going to part. We're going to be wherever one goes, we go all. And by the time, before we found them, so we talked, my sister and I were talking, he said, if we were not going to find anybody, that nobody's alive, and no place where to go, we're going to go to the Germans and tell them that we are Jews, and to do with us whatever they want, whatever they think. Right. But it so happened that we were fortunate that they were still alive. And not my father, my uncle, there was this guy that my sister said, he liked me. I must have been attractive or something, or pretty or whatever. And she said, why don't you go with him to the camp? So that way we're going to have easier to get into the camp. I said, but I don't care. I don't want to go with him by myself. I'm afraid. She said, don't be afraid, why don't you go? My older sister said that. And I went with him. And then while they were there, while he came back from the camp, was a thing that they told them, all the people that they lived behind homes and goods in the house, they told the people to go back to the apartments and take whatever is left with them and to bring it to the camp. And that's what he did. And that's how, when I decided to go with him, he had a brother also, and his brother was with him, and they were carrying so much stuff. I didn't carry anything, but you had to wear the armbands, with the Star of David. And they had so much stuff, they couldn't carry it. There were 10 of them, 10 men, and I was the only one, the only girl. And like I said, they were stationed there too, and a train came by and they closed. What is it called? By the train when they close when they open it and close it. Anyway, and then when the train passed, 8 of them had time to go by to pass the train. Those 2 brothers didn't have time because it was too heavy. They were carrying silver, leather, or whatever they had, and books, prayer books. And sure enough, when the train passed across us, there was a jeep with the SS. And they saw with people with armbands, they stopped us. And they wouldn't let us go. And he was a young guy, he must have been, I was maybe 15 then, and he must have been maybe 17 or 18, I don't know. I really didn't know his age, and his brother, and then they started looking into the packages that they were carrying. They found prayer books, our prayer book, and they got very angry, the SS. They were very, very angry over it. And they started throwing everything out, and they started hitting the older brother. He was beaten so badly, and sure enough, the guy that he was supposed to take care of me ran away. He escaped. And the German said, if he's not going to be found, you're going to be shot, both of you. And there was this German, and I said to him, what do you want from me? Why do you want to kill me? Do I ever do anything to you? Did I ever do anything to you? Do you know me? I talked to him in Polish. He says, no, but it's too bad you're wasting breath on this earth. We have to shoot you. Anyway, they didn't. So whenever he got finished and he didn't come back, they finally let us go. They didn't put a hand on me. Nothing. They didn't hurt me in any way. But whatever they did, they said, you can go. But the other guy, the guy was so beaten badly. Blood was running from all over. And they told us to go. And they were standing with the guns like that, Any minute they could have shot us, And we started running. And when we came to the gate from the camp, and they saw him bleeding all over, so they didn't pay any attention to me, so I went with him. I went into the camp too, because they didn't, they wouldn't have let me in. And that's how I wind up in the camp. And then we went back. I was staying there. You could have gone in and out any time. It wasn't closed forever, but you could go back and forth. So I decided to go back. I didn't want to stay in the camp, so I went back. And that was already, again, another Aussiedlung. Aussiedlung means that they were taking all the Jews out. There will be no more Jews and no more ghetto. They're liquidating everything, the ghetto and the Jews together. And nobody can go in and out anymore. So, as a matter of fact, also I went by, and all the people, my family wasn't there anymore, but I saw all the other people that were herding off to the trains. And I was walking next to them, and nobody even knew that I was Jewish. They were just, the Poles were marching along with them and talking and saying and things about the Jews, and I couldn't say nothing. And finally they came to the camp, and they were short of the quota, that they were loading up the people in the trains, and the cars, train cars, and they needed 200 or 300 people more. So they come to the camp, and my sister and I, where was Edda? I don't even remember where she was, whether she was with us or not. So that we see everybody's running, and everybody's trying to get away because they are coming, getting the Jews. We saw this box, a wooden box standing with a flap, you know, a tablet that you could open and close like that. I said, we're going to go hide there. My two sisters, I don't remember whether Edda was there too. Anyway, we opened that flap to go in to hide. It was full of people. Some people were already there. And the people that were at the bottom, they had the worst. We were on top, so we were on top of everybody. And we're waiting, and sure enough, that uncle was taken away, and it was also my,
I'll be back in 10 minutes.
also my cousin was taken away. So we were left without anybody. My aunt was in the camp. She still was there. And I think she was pregnant at that time, because she had just, I don't know, they were in camp for a long time. And so we had nobody else. Like I said, I had another uncle that was not my mother's brother, but our brother-in-law. His brother was there in that camp where we were. And so he helped us to get in. And that's how we got into the Nebline camp. And we were there, it was in 1942, or the end of 1942, or something like that. Because we left in 1944 to go to another camp, and when the Russians kept on coming closer and closer, when the Germans saw that they are losing the war. Anything else? That's how we wind up, and we were sent to a different camp, and a lot of them died, a lot of them were sent away, and that never came back. If they would have left them, because in 1944 they started coming closer and closer, the Russians, and we were there, starved to death already, starved almost to death, because the food, in them they didn't have that problem, because a lot of them worked in the Gärtnerei, which is in the gardens, in the produce part, that there were potatoes, like produce, you know, and they used to bring some stuff home to the camp. And there was a kitchen, and my youngest sister was behind. I mean, she didn't go to work then. She stayed in the camp because she was too young, and she used to cook potatoes or whatever we had, or cabbage or whatever we had. My sister worked by the produce department. I worked in the other department. Everybody worked in different places. So she used to cook for us, and when we got home, we at least had something to eat, but not in the other, not in Chesterhow, no.
So the
We
new
worked
camp
with,
was in
with-
Chesterhow?
It was ammunition camp that we sorted the bullets. Examiner, I was working as an examiner of the bullets. And there was this hexe. If you know what a hexe means in German, a witch. She used to come, and if she found a bad bullet, she used to hit you right over the face wherever she could find you. Yeah. If she found something that wasn't right in the bullets. No.
How long were you there in Chesterhow?
6 months. We were transported of the summer of 1944, and we were liberated in January of 1945. We were 6 months. If we were to be another 6 months, we wouldn't have lived, because we were already swollen from the hunger, because from the food that they used to give us. So it was our luck, our fortunate luck, our fortunate everything that we lived, that we survived. And the night that we survived, my brother went out. Of course, went wild. All the inmates, in the camp, were wild. They went wild. They put fire into the Nazis, the Germans' building. And he comes, he finds a can of honey. It was frozen. We couldn't open it. We couldn't eat it. A can, maybe 5 pounds of honey. We didn't have any bread. We didn't have nothing, just the honey. And at that time, I had a boyfriend also, and he found a bike to ride a bike. A night that we'll never forget. His name, that Lagerführer, the boss of the camp, was Buttenschlager. And my brother found his cap, the hat that he was wearing. And then we separated for some reason. I don't know why we separated. My brother and I went one direction. My 3 sisters went in the other directions, and we were separated. After being for so many months and so many years and together, all of a sudden we separated. It was so foolish of us that we did.
Where did you go?
Where did you, after the liberation, we started going towards Dublin. Is it cold or is it warm? What is it? No, there's, he's checking, you want to check the air condition? It's on this side. Now, there's another one, there's 2 of them here. Is it too cold for you? Or is it too hot?
It's okay.
You can adjust if you want.
We'll continue.
Oh, okay.
And you went back to Demlin?
Yes, we started walking, my boyfriend and my brother and I. It's a long story, believe me, that we not even 100 hours if I'll talk to you. I'm not going to finish what there have to be said, what we went through. We went through Russians. They stopped us, and they did not believe us that we are Jews. They thought we are Germans. They wouldn't let us go. And then one Russian truck, it was not a truck, a little car went by, and they saw us walking, and they took us in. And there were ditches across the roads. And they fell in, and we fell in with them. And we were almost killed. They had a stove in that truck or whatever that wagon was, that auto was. If that would have fallen with us, they would have smashed us. We walked out and we couldn't believe how we fell in there. They were drunk. They didn't know where they were going, the Russians. They were drunk. And after the war, the Germans that we saw on the road, dead Germans, we went through a forest that you could see tanks were going through the people. They were smashed, like leveled like the ground. And one German was lying, his stomach was a fire, burning. A human being. Now I say a human being. He was a Nazi or whatever, German, but still, it was burning. His whole body was burned, the whole inside. That's what we saw. And I saw another guy with blue eyes open, dead.
Did you finally arrive in Demlin?
Yeah, we finally arrived in Dublin. My sisters were there. And then, my boyfriend wasn't from Dublin. He was from a different town, Rieke or whatever, Rika. And he wanted to go back to his town. So we went. It was not far. Like if you heard about the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, that you can go from one. That's how it looked there, from that city to that farm to the other farm. So we walked there, and there were 4 people killed by the Poles, right in that city. By the Poles. We came out from a camp. They were killed by the Poles because they came to claim the whatever they left behind. Okay? A lot of them were killed. As a matter of fact, there was this girl that her father and her husband lived through the ghetto, lived through the camp. Her father was killed with her husband at the same time by the Poles, by the Polish farmers. So she was left alone with her brother.
Where did you go from that town?
From that town, from that town to Rieke, I went with my brother. We were going to go someplace. I don't remember whether we came from Lublin or going to Lublin to a different town. Yeah, from Rieke we went and we're standing at the station, train station. And my brother and I, and a whole bunch of us, boys and girls that we lived through, that we were together, we were going to a bigger city. That's what small cities. And my sisters were in Dublin, left Dublin. Then, and my brother and I were going to the bigger city, Lublin. And we're waiting on the station to get the train, to catch the train. So this guy was going around, and there were some other people that we did not know, that they weren't with us. And there was this particular guy was asking where we come from, where did we go, where did we live through. And we told them, and they told them, he was talking to the other guys. And he said we were in Dublin, and we were liberated in Częstochowa, and we came just back. But nothing can see is, and we're going to Lublin. And this guy says to me, yeah, you were in Dublin camp? So they said yes. So he asked them, would you by any chance know Shiusha? So I heard the name. That was my uncle's name. And I said, why would he ask about Shiusha? You know, his name is Shiusha. And I got up, and I said, they were already liberated 6 months before us, because they were liberated in 1944 when we were transported to the other camp. They were liberated. And he was in the partisans. He was a partisan. And he lived through with his wife. At that time it was his girlfriend. They married later. And I said, why would he ask about my uncle? Who is he? So I went over and I said, who are you? What's your name? And he tells me, he said, and I ask, why do you ask about Shiusha? Who is Shiusha to you? So he said, he's my cousin, Shiusha. Oh, so I said, if Shiusha is your cousin, so is my mother. I said, so he says, who are you? So I said, I am Mindall, and my mother was Pero. Oh, and he saw my brother, and they had already, in Lublin, they had already an orphanage for the young kids that they lived through the partisans, or mostly the camps that they were, and they have an orphanage. So he says, where are you going? Where we're going? So I said, we're going to Reke or whatever. And I said, where are you going? He said, he goes to Lublin. And he says, you know what? Why don't you let your brother, I'll take your brother with me. And I'll put him in that orphanage. There's a lot of kids there. And stupid, you know, we were all together, we were liberated together, and all of a sudden I let him take him. And I did not know him. Actually, he could say anything. But he looked like, it was a familiar face to me. And he looked just like my mother or my brother or my, you know. And I told him, so he says he has an apartment, and he has a friend, a girlfriend with him, and they live here and here. And so he said, I'll take him and I'll put them in the orphanage. And then when I contacted my sisters, my two younger sisters, the youngsters, and then they wind up, all three of them wind up in the orphanage. And my older sister, the oldest, went to Peretza home. Peretz, that was a home for all the not DP camps, from all survivors that they were together, that they came together to stay. They had a place like for the homeless, okay? A place that they could eat or sleep or whatever, a shelter. And my sister was there, and then she met her husband, a guy that he took her in, and she married him later, but he helped her to stay on her feet, not to stay there, Dom Perezza, and the homeless, and she was staying with him. And then, and my sisters and my brother were sent to Germany after the war. It was already, the war was over and everything. They were sent, not then, but they were sent, we went, not to Germany, they were sent to a different kind of place.
We're coming to the end of the tape now.
Okay.